Hello and welcome to this FUT Weekly podcast. This is a special episode focused on gameplay for FIFA 23. We have with us two gameplay producers, but first of all, I'll introduce my co-host on this podcast, 𝗪𝗀𝗃𝗃. Welcome.
Thank you much, Ben. Exciting little treat for me to really grill these guys about the upcoming changes to the game. So I'm doing my evil grin right now.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And I'll introduce our two members of the gameplay team that we have with us. And the first one is 𝗪𝗃𝗃, who is the gameplay team lead producer. Welcome to the podcast, Sam.
I'm glad to be here, but I wasn't expecting grilling.
Well, we've got a lot of good listener questions to get through. I'm not sure we'll get through them all, but I hear you both may be able to come back in the near future, so we'll get into plenty more of them then. But for now, let me introduce the next guest on this podcast, 𝗪𝗃𝗃, also a gameplay producer, and I believe the main man on the gameplay pitch notes.
Yeah, that's right. And Sam, if you want to learn how to get a grilling, you should join me on Twitter.
What is it? At Tom
𝗪𝗃𝗃.
Yeah, nice. Tom, it's great to have you on as well. Actually, I think the first thing we really should do, keep it nice and simple and give you a chance to dive into something you really like straight away before we get into the grilling, and give something that you're excited about people getting their hands on, maybe your favorite feature that's going to be added for FIFA 23. This is something that listener Joe was asking about, actually. So let's start off with you, Sam. What is your favorite feature coming to FIFA 23?
So my favorite feature is Powershot. And one of the reasons is not only it looks great, it's cool, it's some of the never seen before animations in the game, it's super powerful, it's something that we always wanted to add in the game, and it represents the authentic motion from real life. But it also have a very nice design concept of the high risk, high reward. So you kind of need to plan ahead. It requires a little bit more time for you to prepare, to wind up the animation, but it also requires more precision. But the outcome and the result is truly, truly astonishing. And I really like that it comes in a good balance by itself, but it also provides a very new additional viable option for the players. So I see if my opponent is parking the bus, suddenly, you know what? I have a new tool to counter it. I have enough time in the world to prepare for the power shot. And this additional option, additional viability is something that I truly like in FIFA, that there's so many tools. There's a versatility, flexibility of how you can approach the game. And power shot right now is definitely my favorite.
When you're adding, essentially the power shot into the game here, I'm curious how you think about tweaking and balancing from the start, and then how you think about doing it into the game cycle.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of things we use to balance it, but one of the main things, and it's particularly how I design a lot of the game, is that the power shots are more manual, so you cannot just aim anywhere and get a perfect power shot. So you really need to be more precise and meticulous with your aim. You need to think about executing a power shot, right? Because it's not, like Sam said, you have to have the space and you have to have the proper aim. So it's not like any situation is okay for a power shot. You also need to think, like, the ball isn't coming in a crazy way. Can I really pull a power shot off? Maybe, maybe not. Is this really the best situation? Or should I just stay safe and do a low shot, which is one of their new mechanics? Or should I just do a normal finesse, right? So it is really about finding where to use the power shot. And that's kind of what we try to balance. It's not for every situation.
So we've got power shot, which is manual shooting, but semi-assisted shooting has had some changes as well. Tom, do you want to talk people through a bit about that? Because there is detail, of course, in the pitch notes. There is with all of this stuff, but you may have a bit more to share than we can see there.
Yeah, so we had a semi version of shooting in the past, but we decided to rework the mechanic to reward players that can actually manage to aim well during the game. So the idea is that even if you aim at the same precise spot in the assisted that's in the semi will be more precise. But at the same time, semi is also, it can go to the corner shot, right? The corner flag. So it is that thing that you have to practice a lot. But our goal really with the semi-assisted shooting is that a high-level player that wants to be good at shooting, that wants to perfect and be a master of their shots, to use semi instead of assisted. Because if you aim well, the shot will be more accurate and precise. But it is a really powerful mechanic that will give players who want that next level of skill an advantage in a way.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then, is that something you identified, Sam, as being a concern, that shooting, I guess, if it's got any assistance involved, that it is then something that is maybe more down to the randomness of how the player's attributes impact the shot and things like that? Is there a need to make it more skill-based shooting? I mean, there is time finishing, I guess.
I think like this is a great question, but the answer is that when we trying to design and improve FIFA gameplay, we always think about all our players, players who play competitively, players who play in the career mode, and we have a very wide range of the skills and the preferences and the play styles in the game. And we know that the people, different players, they want different things. Our pro players, the most skillful players, they always want super fast, being able to change the path at the very last moment, being able to kind of be in the full control, but sometimes it comes at the very demanding skills to do those. But at the same time, we also want the initial experience to be more welcoming, more engaging, more user-friendly, for easy to grasp by the new players, by casual players. That's why having the options for having like a more assisted option, having the semi-assisted options is always a good way to balance and tune the feature, that it's kind of utilizes the preferences of our different player cohorts. And it's just the semi-shooting in the past was not really adopted as an option by itself, because it didn't really provide the significant like rewards for using like an extra skill. And this year we creating this to trying to see and hopefully feel that our skillful players will find it as their kind of the go-to approach, go-to setting, because it will have a significant risk-reward combination that would allow them to succeed more in the game.
The interesting thing when trying to take a sport and put it into a simulation is oftentimes, you try to apply science to art in some ways. I'm curious, when you think about going from 22 to 23, how do you go about deciding on whether or not a feature is worthwhile to add in?
Well, I think that the every new feature that comes within our team, it is born during the our creative brainstorms, when we're discussing in between the players. And sometimes it's really hard to pinpoint to the exact location when a certain idea was born, on how we actually kickstarted the whole machine. Because a lot of times we do use lots of reference videos, and we inspired by the things happening in real life. And there's lots of signature, long, powerful shots that happen in real life. And some of those videos, we always were thinking about like, well, that would be so cool to have those in the games. But we know like when the player approaches for those super long shots, you kind of see it from afar for this long wind-up animation. And then you came up with, okay, if we have this, how we can balance in our game, how we can implement this. And then there is also another part of the problem statement, if you want to name it like that, that, as I was mentioning before, sometimes if the opponent does the parking the bus and you are in a midfield, it feels like there's no much you can do with the long shots, especially like at the times that there were so many blocks happening. And I feel like this Powershot brings the counterattack to that. So if you want to defend against the power shots, you need to step up and no longer crowd the penalty box.
Yeah, I've tried it out and it was very fun to use. As I mentioned when talking about it on the last podcast we did on gameplay features, did end up hitting 𝘰𝘰𝘦 many times, and often it went for a throw-in initially, which is just a thing about doing things manually and you realize your aim maybe isn't what you thought it was. We got sidetracked, but I wanted to ask Tom, what is your favorite feature that is being added in FIFA 23?
Well, since Sam stole one of my favorite features, which is the power shots, I'll steal the one that he worked on, and I have to say technical dribbling. For me, I've always loved dribbling, and I always loved guiding and controlling the player. And I'm a systems kind of guy, so I always identified issues, or not issues, but maybe like a lack of ways to move forward with our dribbling. But now this technical dribbling, it kind of revamps the whole system and sets up the dribbling system for the future. It's like we basically revamped the whole tech, and now it's a really good foundation to build on for years to come. And it just gives you a great different feeling when you're controlling the left stick. You're basically guiding your player, then it's fluid motions, and you're dribbling without relying on flicks or anything. I can get past defenders reliably without actually relying on skill moves, which I'm not very good at. Maybe some fake shots, but not normal skill moves. So this technical dribbling gives me that control and perfectly like maneuverability that I need, right? Because I'm a passing guy, so I love to kind of get a turn and find a crazy space to pass, which the other dribbling sometimes maybe would have taken longer to do that turn, or I would have to flick to do it. But now I can just kind of guide my player, and he will turn while I can already be aiming and do like a crazy amazing pass. So for me, it's the beginning of something that is going to change our game forever, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. I also feel like the new technical dribbling, it comes as a innovation that in the beginning will feel a little bit different, because the way the whole fundamentally it's built and the priorities for to choose what's the next motion is quite different from it was in the past, and it will take some time for our players to get accustomed to it. But I feel like there's several things regarding the new dribbling mechanic, because it's a foundation for the future too, that really excites me. So first of all, with the new technical dribbling, the system always tries to find the best possible approach in a specific context. So let's say, even if you play a little bit of FIFA 23 and you look at on the same type of the gameplay in situation FIFA 22, you will see so many new animations and like different visual variations happening because of the a little bit of slightly different angle, the defender coming up close. And it's this kind of the on the spot, on the fly, trying to find what's the best animation to exit, to turn, is truly adds the visual freshness to the game and the dribbling. The second part that I'm also excited about the dribbling is that you need to understand that fundamentally the new system prioritizes the movement, the continuous flow of the player. So we're trying to see, like, if the player tries to go to and turn 90 degrees, what will happen in the future? And every touch goes in the wide turns, on the 180 turns. You will see that the player you control will dribble the ball, will touch the ball, and already kind of push even further in the direction of the next pad input. And your player will accelerate much faster, will exit faster than he or she would use exit in the past. Because let's say you do the lots of 180 turns in the past, dribbling wise, were kind of like two touches. The first touch would stop the ball, and the second touch would kick it in the 180 direction. And now you will see that this year there's much more 180 turns with one touch and like continuous movements. And this is really something that you can notice if you play against the world-class legendary AI on the high difficulties. Oftentimes, if you play against the CPU AI on those high difficulties, it's really hard to create space against them, because they were really good at marking you, and the only way you can kind of break that pattern and create chances was to kind of pass back or perform a skill move, or perform like tiki-taka, pass through balls, because AI is kind of really good at staying close to you. But this year, with the new technical dribbling, I can catch them off guard. I can create some additional space with the kind of planning ahead my movement. Like I know, okay, I'm going to the left and I'm going to the right. So once you understand how the system works, get a hold of the new technical dribbling, you can do certain things that were definitely impossible to perform in last year.
Yeah, it was interesting because in my experience trying it, I felt like I got some really incredible fluid movement, because once you start thinking about the way a player's body moves with the ball and try to emulate that as you direct the player, it does feel extremely responsive and you can get movement that you didn't previously get. But on the flip side, previously you may have done a really sharp 90-degree turn that wasn't actually very realistic but did feel responsive, and now you're having to look at more realistic ways of dribbling to make those movements. So it felt good, but it felt like it was going to be something to learn.
Yeah. So when we're looking about so we're about to turn 90 degrees, we take into account so many different parameters, like how much time it will take to actually touch the ball, what will be the pose of the player during the movement, how quickly player will be able to kind of accelerate for the next touch coming up after the exit. So we not only prioritize this exact moment or when you're going to touch the ball, but also what will happen next. And you will see that in general, you can say that in those turns, your player will kind of push the ball and kick the ball a little bit further. So that's difference compared to the last year. So let's say in the last year, you could do some angles, but the ball would still be a little bit relatively close to you, because you would lose that movement speed, that movement momentum.
Okay, yeah, I see.
I know I shouldn't use the word momentum because of all the conspiracy theories, but I'm talking about the movement momentum.
Physical physics.
Physical momentum, yeah. So physical momentum. If your movement is like the speed decreasing and you actually kind of stop and during those turns, of course the ball will be a little bit closer to you. If we create this kind of the fluid movement that allows you not to lose too much on those moves, because if you see the players in the real life and they sprinting or just jogging at the high speed with the ball and they anticipate, I'm going to turn 90 degrees. They already think about this. Okay, how I'm going to do the touch in such a way that I will just lose a little bit of speed at the moment when I'm touching the ball and I'm doing the turn, but I'm trying to lose as little as possible this kind of the kinetic energy of my body and like maintain movement. And this is how the technical dribbling works. Of course, it's much more complex than this, but just think about this momentum.
Yeah, I think that does make sense, because there were certain situations where I would receive the ball with an attacker and I felt like I could guide my player through a gap in defenders, which previously I wouldn't have been able to, sort of using the runner's existing momentum and the ball speed. Yes, you're taking touches, but you're not taking touches in the same mechanical way that you were previously doing it in FIFA 22. There's a way of using that momentum, as you say, to guide the player through gaps and take advantage with dribbling, which maybe wasn't so used before. You might use a 𝗪𝗪𝘀 or something instead.
Yeah, I feel like there could be, everyone can create their own kind of new scenarios. They will find a particular usage. I like to go a little bit to the side and then with this momentum quickly cut inside to the center to create like one extra space for me. So then I do have enough time for the power shot. So that's something is cool to see. And we also think about, let's say in the past, there was a regular dribbling and, for example, the agile dribbling that keeps the ball a little bit closer. But the difference was not that prevalent and big. And you say like, oh, but the regular dribbling is already like good at that, keeping the ball close inside the box, for example, when it's like multiple defenders around you. But the new technical dribbling truly can catch your opponent off guard.
I'm excited to test that out, and I think giving people more tools is important. I know one of the I guess frustrations that people have shared though has been on more of I guess AI side defensively, with the defensive line dropping deep, I guess mainly on next gen. has there been any focus on addressing how that interacts? And I suppose is like a follow-up there, and in the same vein, sometimes certain defenders would track runs way back and the other defenders wouldn't necessarily react to that. I think I have like PTSD of my youth coaches telling me how to keep like defensive line, and so having the individual defender track some runs while the rest of the team doesn't react is something that I know I found occasionally frustrating.
Yeah, so for the depth tactics, we worked a lot on it. Even before, in neutral depth, the line would be back, and we noticed that. But now, in 23, if you have a neutral depth, for example, the line will hold higher than last year and will not sit on the 6-yard box. Like, we tweaked the whole depth system. So the extremes are different now, but even the neutral one should sit way higher now. You will definitely notice the difference, but the depth is also something we worry about a lot. So we'll keep monitoring that and tweaking that throughout the year if the need arises. But we did do a lot of work on that to make sure that the game plays better this year in terms of positioning and defending.
And I would add that in particular, we also improved the kind of the position of the depth line, kind of maintaining its value and what's designed position on defensive line against the direct passing on the offensive side. So let's say if you think about FIFA 22, a lot of times, even if you put like a certain values for your defensive depth, it will be highly like influenced by the direct passing set by the offensive line. And this year, this is much improved, and the defensive depth is more secure, regardless of if it's direct passing or not set by the opponent.
Yeah, makes sense. One thing I wanted to add, and is probably one of my favorite features that I've seen, I noticed neither of you mentioned this, is the new free kick taking system. And that's for multiple different set pieces. And the fact that it's, I guess, in a way gone back to a similar thing to what it was before, where you can choose your spot on the ball to take the kick. It's a really nice addition. It feels satisfying to use. And I was just wondering what persuaded you to make that change, considering I guess it felt like that system had been moved away from?
Multiple. But first of all, like, you cannot jump on me saying like, oh, you didn't mention free kicks as your favorite feature, but you gave me only one choice.
Yeah.
Maybe my second choice would be the the free kicks. Yeah, like they all are babies. They all are like
Close second,
great features. When it comes for the free kicks, there's multiple like problem statements and objectives we set early on for the feature, and I can mention them all. So one of the objective was to make the system more easy to grasp, to understand for our new users, casual users, to make it more engaging. So when you get the free kicks, you are excited and you don't lose your excitement the next time you get to the free kicks. And we know like the free kicks in the past years were they were quite hard to actually score. And every time you would score, you would capture a video, you would send a message to your friends, post it on Twitter, because like it is hard, and it was hard also to kind of score consistently with them. They would require like very you need to be really skillful at those at times. Again, if we look at the whole population of FIFA players, and we wanted to make the system that it's more accessible, more user friendly for the casual players. And this is in the new system. It's designed in such a way that if you just start with the free kicks, and even if you just use your left stick and power the shot, you will get some good outcomes, like good opportunities, scoring chances versus a goalkeeper. Of course, you won't be able to exploit and easily score from them. But even like without using the right stick, even the default like kind of version of the free kicks will already create some nice chances for the new players and the casual players, which is great for them. Then we also wanted to create enough design space and opportunity to scale up with the skill of our players, to reward them to being skillful and understand how the system works. And this is where the right stick comes in place. You can kind of exactly create the trajectory you want to do, and this year you will be able to perform some of the shots that were literally impossible to do the last year. Like, let's think about the long trivela shots from high powers from 𝗪𝗲𝗀𝗀𝘀 𝗪𝗏𝗀𝗀. That was impossible to do last year. This year, you'll be able to do it on demand. And this ability to control the spin more precisely literally creates a multiple scoring opportunities and the variations you can approach in each individual free kick, which means even as a defender side, now I know, like, oh, you can go for kind of the both near post and the far post for the goalkeeper corner and whatnot. And in the past, from certain positions, there was kind of only one viable choice how to perform the free kick. Another pillar of the new system actually powers this new mechanic is that system as a whole is following the concept as like what you see is what you get, in the sense that it doesn't have any hidden rolling the dice that alters your input. If you kind of recreate the same position, same situation on the field, and you will do 100 times in a row, same exact inputs and the aiming, you will see the same outputs. You will see exactly the same trajectory. So, which
with
means
the same stats
with the same stats of the player, of course, you will be able to see and learn how to be better at the free kicks and understand how the system works, how to recreate exact shots to be like in full control. Players now in full control of the outcome of the free kicks. And that's why there is now several FUT moments related to the free kicks. There is free kicks skill games, something you can practice with. And there is also a new feature that now you can practice free kicks in practice arena. So you go into practice arena, you go to the options, and there is like a special mode when you can place your player at the like designated position. It will auto-create the wall of 2 defenders, 4 defenders, depending on how far you are from the goal line. And you can actually practice the free kicks and find that kind of create this mental and muscle memory and understanding how it works, and you can truly become a master of the free kicks. You are in full control now.
Yeah, it's exciting. I've been someone who has always, I don't want to, big myself up too much, but has consistently scored free kicks every year, no matter the system. So the fact that the system is going to be better and people should have more control is pretty exciting to me. One thing I was going to mention on practicing, though, you mentioned the importance of a player's stats because things like curve, I guess, have an impact. If I'm going to practice, should I take a player and edit their stats to what they would be in Ultimate Team to try it in the practice arena? Because I guess with chemistry boosts, perhaps special items, you kind of want to be using the exact player you're going to be using in-game to practice, I've always found.
I feel like when you go to the practice, I would say it's more to learn and understand the dependencies on your power shot. So for example, if you see the trajectory, the preview trajectory, it's a preview trajectory for the kind of the default half 2 bars on the power graph. So if you power a little bit more, the trajectory will be higher than that. If you power less, the trajectory will go below that. So even if you recreate your player like you have in the Ultimate Team in the practice arena and like learn from the one spot, next time you will have in a game, you will be a little bit like to the right or to the left in a different position. It's not something that you can pinpoint to the exact recreate situation. So you need to learn like the craft, how it works like in general. On the same, like get some practice.
I think on that, unfortunately, we're going to stop for now, but I know we're going to continue this discussion hopefully on next week's podcast. I know we talked about a lot, but there's a lot more to talk about too, so I'm looking forward to that. Plenty of questions from listeners to ask too. Tom, it's been great to finally get you on the podcast to talk gameplay. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to coming again, and so many more things to talk about, like give tips on passing and clearances and things. You have no idea how many juicy nuggets I have for the future.
Looking forward to that. And Sab, of course, thank you very much for sparing the time coming on the podcast as well.
It was great to finally join the podcast. It was my first time here. I felt the the infamous grilling, and I'm looking forward for the next grilling, and I would be happy to jump into specific questions. I know me and Tom, we like to speak at length at the certain features just because we are so passionate and excited about the things that we do on FIFA gameplay. And I hope that we can help your listeners to know more into details, what's the mindset behind, because at the end, we're doing these games for our community and for the players, and we always like their feedback, what's the frustration points, and we all have like some frustration points coming here and there, and we're always trying to fix them. So looking forward for more grilling.
Yeah, more grilled nuggets coming up soon.
That's right.
Thank you very much to 𝗫𝗍𝗪 as well for coming on this pod, asking some questions. I know you've got some more. I know the listeners have some more. So looking forward to getting into that very soon indeed. Thanks, 𝗫𝗍𝗪.
Yeah. Cheers, Ben.
And of course, thank you very much to all you listeners out there for listening along. If you enjoyed this and haven't yet subscribed, please do so via all the usual podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. And also on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, do leave a like, drop a comment, and thank you very much to those Patreon supporters who keep this podcast going. Your support is so greatly appreciated. And a big thank you to those icon patrons: Dave B, Coach Vass, Chris W, DJ FIFA Player, Hugh J, Steve C, Matt L, Alistair, Alan G, Anthony R, Dominic, Rob P, L, Jeff B, Christopher R, Stephen F, Michael, Tom B, Damon H, Nick Jack M, Eric T, Roger D, Alex M, Dan W, Siler P, Matt H, Harry P, Neil P, Adam G, @𝗵𝗚𝗀𝗀𝘀, Brian S, Andrew C, Sam K, Jake G, Michael P, Zach O, Springford, Patrick, Dominic G, Adam HC, Adam R, Andy H, Joe W, Dylan, Orion B, Mindor L, and Tim J. Plus a special thanks to Luke M, Dave B, Hugh J, Tom M, Darren W, and Pato Foot for advice and production assistance. Before I leave you, just one more thing to add though. FIFA's a bit like life really. It has its many ups and its many downs. If you're having a few more downs than ups in real life in these more difficult times, then please don't feel that you're alone or need to struggle on without taking action. If you go to thecalmzone.net, there's loads of resources, advice, support, or even just a friendly chat for anyone who needs it. If it sounds like it could help you, then head over to thecalmzone.net. And for now, have a good one, and I'll catch you on the next podcast.